And welcome to another podcast of Rosen Sports Monday. Mark Rosen along with you here on Talk North Sports. First of all, I want to thank our wonderful sponsors, Lexus of Wayzata, Lexus of Maplewood. My good friend Charlie Swanson is always there to help, and they got a great product. Go check them out for yourself. And Broadway Dental, Dr. Ben Stein, great facility over there in Northeast Minneapolis. And beyond the dental care, we'll talk about that later, but I talk a lot about sleep apnea, and because I have it, he's not only cured it, helped cure it with a new device, but check it out for yourself if you have that issue with him. Broadway Dental, Lexus of Wayzata, Lexus of Maplewood, and Broadway Dental. We'll hear from our sponsors a little later. Our guest today is a longtime friend of mine, but more importantly, well, not more importantly, because being a best friend is the most important thing. One of the original personal trainers in the Twin City area, maybe the longest standing personal trainer, Ron Henderson, a.k.a. the Fitness King, is here. And Ron, it's great to have you on the show. And I've been listening to you be a philosopher about a lot of things in life, but more importantly, taking care of me and so many of your clients. So I want to kind of turn the clock back and talk about your background. You've been self-employed for 45 years?
45 years, yes.
I think of, and I know we had a chance years ago to interview, for those of you who are old enough, remember the name Jack LaLanne. Growing up on TV, there wasn't a lot of exercise programs on TV, but Jack LaLanne's the one that stood out. You had a chance to interview your hero years ago. Was he kind of an inspiration to you to get into it? At that time, do you remember watching him as a kid?
Absolutely.
How could you not?
Jack LaLanne was inspiration for, I think, anybody back then. And yes, he was, until he passed away, always an inspiration, because he's a guy that loved life and lived it fully. And he looked at his health the way people look at wealth. Health was the most important thing. Other people were trying to build a wealth bank. He was always into the health bank like me.
But no one did exercise programs. There were a couple maybe here and there. I remember watching them on TV. It wasn't kind of like the in vogue thing to do. So certainly he inspired a lot of people. He did some crazy stuff out there, but more importantly, just on a day-to-day basis, did you learn a lot from watching him that helped you become the trainer that you are today? Yeah,
of course. Discipline, consistency, and also he always ended his show, he would say, and I love you, God loves you. So he always had even that kind of that spiritual component. It was a very small part, right, but he had it. And just his whole attitude about how important it was to actually think about the later years in life in the way you exercise. So exercise today because you're thinking about tomorrow. Right. One of his famous lines was, he said, exercise is king, nutrition is queen. Put them together, you have a kingdom. I always love that.
That's a great saying.
I stole that from him, but
That's all right. You give him total credit. Let's talk about your background before we get into some of the specifics of what has made you so successful and why your clients rely on you so much. You grew up here in Friendly Fridley, as we like to call it. As a black man, as a black kid growing up, what was that environment like for you growing up in Fridley, and how it formed you as an adult?
Well, it wasn't friendly. Their slogan, it says Friendly Fridley. Fridley was not friendly on any type of a level, but there were some people there that were friendly. And so when I'd have all those, I was getting called the N-word literally every day. If it wasn't the N-word, it was spook, it was blackie, this and that. But I would have Caucasian friends standing there with me to fight these guys. So what I tell people, when I was speaking last week, I mentioned this, I said that it was great from the standpoint that I never grew up being racist towards Caucasian or anybody, because I always had the same people with me standing by my side saying, this is wrong. Yeah. So it was the experience itself. It was hard, especially when I don't think I met anybody until maybe 10th grade that was African-American other than my family, because we were stuck out in Fridley there. Yeah. So I didn't have any African-American friends on any level. I had a Native American friend, but no African-American friends at all.
That could have scarred you, left that kind of a negative impression on you and how to treat people. But you're just the opposite. I mean, that's quite an admission that, you didn't let it get to you that way.
Yeah, no, well, I didn't. But again, I think it's because I had people of that same race that were standing next to me. I remember teaching self-defense in 7th grade. I had 3 or 4 people I was teaching self-defense. How do you even know it at that level? I just think I had an ability to connect with people that it didn't make any difference. I always had friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very fortunate to be able to say that, in my life from day one.
It's teaching self-defense in 7th grade.
Yeah.
How did you learn that?
Well, Bob Fusaro, he's one of the first persons that was in Minnesota with schools, Midwest Karate.
Oh, I remember him.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so he started teaching out of his basement, and my mother was one of his first students. So I met him early on. And I don't talk a lot about my background on that end, but I was always doing, we were fencing. We had foils downstairs. So we were doing fencing. We were doing judo. We were doing all this stuff early on in my life. So you practice, and you get better. And I will say this, at one time, braggingly, I thought my feet were so fast that I would tell people if they could block my kick, they couldn't. Around their head, I'd pay them $5. But I did have fast feet in those days.
That was a lot of money too.
Yeah. Which is kind of funny though.
It's funny you mentioned. I mentioned Jack LaLanne, but I remember because I was probably the 98-pound weakling that in the back of the comic book sent away for the Charles Atlas, or not sent away, but looked at. You remember you could send away for the Charles Atlas, whatever it might be, weightlifting thing, and it's like he was the guy that like I want to look like that. I mean, and that was such a, it was kind of phony, but I mean, it was a way of maybe motivating you. That's the only impression I had about weightlifting or anything growing up. And a lot of people probably felt the same way, but for you had a different path that eventually led you to where you are.
Well, I did, but also I was another guy that would look at those magazines too. Charles Atlas, they were great. And I would eat, you wouldn't believe how much spinach I used to eat from watching Popeye.
Come on.
Because I believed that stuff.
Oh, I love it.
And I couldn't stand spinach. No, literally. But I grew up with all that stuff. And I didn't have a lot of things that I wanted to have when I was really young.
Mm-hmm. So
I thought one thing I can have a body that looks like $1 million. Because when I remember being probably in 2nd or 3rd grade, being called fatty, because I was bigger, I had this big head for my body. And I when I was 6 months old, people thought I was 2 years old. That's how big I was. So, which is interesting.
Again, we're talking to Ron Henderson, the fitness king, who has been, again, I'll ask you flat out, are you the longest running active trainer, personal trainer in the Twin Cities?
Yes, I am.
I remember there's been other ones. I don't know, name names.
I can name them.
Lana Moso, that right?
But she wasn't doing personal training at that. She was doing strictly her aerobics type things.
Right.
I have a lot of respect for Lana Moso. I've met her a couple of times.
That name just came to me. So when you hear that term, personal trainer, does it always come down to one-on-one? For you, it does. But is that the way it's always been for you from the time you started, or no?
No. See, what happens is I used to work for Jack LaLanne Health Spas, but they changed the European health spas. So I was always training people like other people, working in the gyms, training people on that level. But it wasn't one-on-one where you're just doing it literally one-on-one individually. That's the biggest difference, because what happens is if you're in a health club and I'm training you one-on-one, and you have an hour workout, but we need to use a certain apparatus, somebody's on that machine, we can't use it. So it impedes your workout. So one-on-one, going to people's homes, making sure that they can get 100% of what they need exactly when they need it. Nobody was doing that but me at that time. And then I think about 4 or 5 years later, I think there was, wish I could remember, but there were several people that I knew that actually started coming along, doing the same thing that I was doing. And then you got a guy like, who I respect a lot, years later that got into the business, who's also very good, Jason Young. I put his name out there because I like to give tribute to those people that are good. And he's been around now for quite a while. And
So what do you look for in a client? I mean, and what your clients look for in a personal trainer like yourself? Because I've been with you for many years. I will fully admit it. It's changed my life. It's helped keep me not just physically on the right path, but mentally, everything that I've gone through in my personal life. And I think the consistency with seeing you a couple times a week, there was, it's made all the difference in the world at my age now, at 73. But what's the relationship? What do you look for when a client interviews you? Basically, you interview a client.
For me, it's probably a little bit different because I approach it differently. So as a trainer, what I tell people is you want to be with somebody that if you lost your job would still be there training you for free. Somebody that really cares, somebody that's really that passionate about your health. See, the health is the most important thing. And if it is, somebody loses their job or they make a mistake and all of a sudden taxes hit them so they can't afford to train with you, but you know they need you, a good trainer is going to train you for free. So I've had probably 4 or 5 people I've trained up to 6, 7 months at the same time, didn't make a cent because of what they were dealing with. So those are the kind of things that I say, look for a trainer that really cares about you as a person, and you're going to be able to tell that.
And you've always, at least to the best of my knowledge, just gone solo. You don't have I remember asking you a couple times, have you ever thought about bringing someone else in if you want an extra day off, or you could teach them the same techniques that you use, but you've never really kind of gone that route.
Well, yes and no. There's the rub. What sleep and death, what dreams may come.
Yeah.
So I had a couple people that I tried to hire once. Here's the problem. There's so much goes into actually being really good at what you're doing. So to train somebody properly, that requires a lot of time. And at that time, I was younger, so I was working 11, 13 hours a day nonstop. I didn't have time to be training somebody in. And what I found is because of the attitude that I had about training, people would prefer to train with me. But then the number one thing that I would ask a person is this, and I tried 2 people. One guy was at a club in town. He was a head guy in one of the clubs. I won't give you the name. And a lady. I said, if the person lost their job, how would you feel about training them for free? And every single person paused. That was my answer. There's no way I would hire you. You have to really care about people because I'm so passionate about it. Health is wealth. Nothing else really matters.
What's the scope of the range in ages that you've trained from young adults, kids, or whatever it might be, to elderly people?
Wow. 8 to 89.
Wow. 8?
Oh, yes.
An 8-year-old.
Oh, yes.
Lifting weights?
I had doing certain exercises,
Certain
very
exercise?
low, very low.
Okay.
I had an 8 and 9-year-old come to me, and I told their parents, I don't think they wanted them because they were overweight and they were chubby at 8 and 9. And I said, I don't recommend that you have them come and see me. And they said they insisted anyways. And I said, well, I'll let you come a couple times so you can see what they're doing. And after the first 2 times, she said, I agree with you. And I said, I told you that in the beginning. I've been doing this for a long time. I can tell. Yeah.
Your clients spend 1 hour a day with
1 hour with me.
1 hour with you, 2 or 3 days a week, depending on the individual. They have 23 hours to themselves afterwards. What advice would you give, not just to your clients, but people listening right now, about what is it that makes, as you talk about your health portfolio, the most important thing to do when they're not with you?
Well, I think that you have to think physically fiscal. I think that you have to look at the same thing that you apply to your finances and approach your physical health the same way. And most people, they don't. Because you grow up, money is king, money is everything. And so people go to college and they do all these things so that they can have a better education, so that they can make more money. So they're money motivated, and you need to get health motivated. So you have to just start small. I tell people, start where you're at. Look at any habit and how habits are actually developed. So just start small. Then you get into the habit of doing that. So I'm in a habit right now of doing certain things physically, certain things spiritually. But I had to get in the habit of doing that. So the most important things for me is when I get up in the morning, for me, I make sure that I'm reading the Bible. That's what I do every morning. When I go to bed at night, I make sure that I'm hearing the word of God. All those things are habit of forgiving people. So I'm not holding things in on me because that hurts you. It's all about habits for everything you're doing.
Yeah, and habits can be all-encompassing. We can talk about, again, people who are, our culture is so food-driven and eccentric that, with diets, and this is what you have to eat, and this is what you should, and it changes constantly.
Oh, yes.
The target's always moving. So what advice do you have for people about, maintaining your weight and then continuing to find other ways of making sure you are the best version of yourself?
Right. Well, first of all, there's no panacea. So people go on these quick weight things, they don't work. So again, it's lifestyles. If you burn off more calories than you take in, you're going to keep your weight where you want to be, or you're going to be able to lose weight. So moderation with everything that you do. Don't look at the labels at all. Read the labels. People look at the labels, but they're not really reading them, because if you actually read them, most of the stuff you wouldn't be taking.
Yeah. What are the things they should be looking at to go, no? Is it sugar content?
Well, obviously sugar and those kind of things that get to. Yeah. If you're taking something and you think it's good, but it says it's 400 calories or whatever this, or too much salt, too much sugar. And by the way, Mark, most people know what they should be doing. They're just not doing it. Again, I think it's because we're utterly focused with, especially now with the summer, making sure our yard looks pristine. We're looking at curb appeal more so instead of curve appeal. All right. So I think it's just, you got to awaken the people to the reality is that sooner or later, you're going to get to be 70. I'm 71 May 15th.
Yeah.
And I feel great. I don't feel old at all, but I prepared for the later years in life, Mark.
And you have taught me the lesson, and we can talk about this right now because you are obviously in excellent shape and you've helped me become a better version of myself, but you got hit hard by COVID. It almost cost you your life.
Oh, yes.
And I remember being in your training facility, and you're hauling around an oxygen tank. I mean, it was bad stuff not that long ago. But you're no matter what, COVID, which was an extreme, or just dealing with, the aging process, the better shape you're in, the better, you've always told me, you're going to be able to handle what might be thrown at you.
Oh, yes. And if I can tag on with that, so the better shape that are in physically, mentally, and spiritually. So even though I lost 41 pounds when I had COVID.
And you're not okay. How much do you weigh normally? You were down to what?
Yeah, I was 170. I was down to 139. I'm usually about 175. Okay. But here's the thing though, Mark, even though I was there, it was a positive experience for me. I tell everybody, I met a wonderful friend named Dave in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I was counseling somebody when I'm sitting in the hospital. It's about mental fitness as well as physical fitness and spiritual fitness. All of that goes hand in hand. So even though I'm walking around and I got the oxygen tank and it took me a while to recover, I remember being home and I'm lifting, the fitness king's lifting 2 pounds. Oh my God. But do you realize that was hard to do? But I knew enough that the Bible says, don't despise the small stuff, small beginnings. So you start wherever you're at, and then you grow from there, Mark.
You talk about, weightlifting is the reason. I mean, I try to work hard on my cardio outside of when I see you, I go in and work 10, 15 minutes on the bike just to kind of warm up. But for women, for men, no matter how ages, why are weight bearing so important?
Bone density, ligament strength, and the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn just sitting and standing. So you want to increase your muscle mass, and it doesn't, how can I say it? Like you could work out and people look at their weight and they say, well, my weight hasn't changed. But then you look at their whole body. I got a guy 74 right now that went from his stomach all sticking out huge like that, and now he's got muscles there, and he's slim, but he's burning more calories because he has more muscle mass. So it's important for that. Bone density, ligament strength. And then what happens is, remember this, your legs are like the cement to your house. That's foundational. So as you get stronger legs, my dad at 97 passed away. He was able to just get up from the chair without using his hands several times at 97.
That's a key. Yeah. Yeah. And you have a lot of, and you've had a lot of female clients as well. And I think the old adage, like women don't want to lift weights because they feel they're going to get muscles. You can dispel that. I mean, for sure.
Muscles is,
and that's go ahead.
Yeah, people get caught up in that. Okay, so what looks better? A racehorse that's toned, or look at a racehorse? No. So muscles that's why most of the female stars, if you notice them, they all have trainers and they all try to be in really good physical shape. It makes a big difference in your life, and also how you feel about yourself. If you want to feel better about yourself, slow down on the curb appeal, and start working on the curb appeal. Get yourself, become the best. I call it self-staging. In real life, same way you self-stage a house, start self-staging your body. The breakdown of self-staging is getting yourself physically in a position where you feel the best about yourself. That means you're going to have to do aerobic type exercises, weight type bearing type exercises for muscularity and those kind of things. You have to do things for your heart. You have to stretch, all those things, Mark.
Yeah, this is great advice. Again, hearing from Ron Henderson, the fitness king, and I know we've talked about it. In all the years I've trained with you, I've never once, I don't think, asked you, how much weight am I lifting right now? If I'm doing a bench press, if I'm doing whatever, leg press, whatever it might be. And then you go to the various fitness clubs and you see these guys, these macho guys that are, putting the weights on, and they're trying to they're grunting and they're pushing hard. You've told me, I think, many times, your muscles don't know how much weight you're pushing. I mean, it's a matter of technique. And I think that's one thing I've learned more than anything from you. You got to have the right technique. And that's why after all these years, I mean, I'm capable of walking into a gym and doing certain exercises, but I could never do it still the way I can with you, because you always slow me down. I don't know how many times you've told me to say, I'm going crazy here. You got to slow down. I mean, you're making me go blind here, which you are in one eye. We could talk about that as well. But you always say to slow down. So the amount of weight isn't as important as the technique.
No, it isn't. And if you look at a lot of the bodybuilders, and I feel bad for some of these people, but we make our own beds. Now they're, let's say, 68 or they're 70 years of age. They have all these health problems because they were benching too much, or they were doing the deep squats and all those kind of things. People don't think ahead. All they think about is now they get this endorsement for selling this health product or something like that. You have to understand that everything that you do now is going to either benefit you later on in life, or it's going to take away from you. So you have to look at those things. So if you're lifting super heavy and things like that, with certain things, it's going to come back and bite you.
Yeah.
So you have to slow down. And I've talked about this before, but I could give you a technique to do right now, and I could give you a lighter weight, and I will probably do less reps than even the guy here helping us. Why? Because my ability to focus and concentrate on that muscle it's there because I've had all these years of doing it. So I'll get more out of that movement. So if I try to tense up my chest right now, just standing here, I can do maybe 6 reps like that. I can relax. I feel like I just did probably 20 push-ups on my pecs literally right now. And that's not a lie, but that's the ability for you to see, because your body doesn't know if there's any weight in your hands right now, only understands the tension that's being created in the muscles. So you got to fixate more with your mind.
We're going to take a break here. When we come back, I want you to talk more about letting go of stress, which I know something is really important to you. You've authored a number of books, and kind of like the next step for people and for Ron Henderson as well. So we'll take a break right now. Again, we're talking with Ron Henderson, the fitness king. Time now to hear from our sponsors, Broadway Dental and Lexus of Wayzata. Hey, Rosie here for Broadway Dental and my good friend, Dr. Ben Stein. I'm a patient of Dr. Stein's at both his sleep apnea clinic and dental clinic. He has a newly renovated and conveniently located dental office in Northeast Minneapolis next to Certix. I mean, it's the most modern facility you could possibly find. Dr. Stein has a great chairside manner. He's nice. He's understanding. He obviously knows his stuff, and he'll spend quality time with each patient. We'll make sure they are properly cared for. I want to talk about beyond the obvious dental care is sleep apnea. I was diagnosed with it years ago, and I was stuck with that silly, cumbersome CPAP machine, and I couldn't wait to get rid of it. And I mentioned it to Dr. Stein, and he set me up with his sleep appliance area. And it's the easiest thing in the world. You just pop an upper, lower appliance in each night. My snoring is gone. My wife says I don't snore at all, and I get a restful night's sleep. And if you have sleep apnea, Dr. Stein is the best to see as well to help you in that area. So if you want to contact them in Broadway Dental, give them a call at 612-379-2300. That's 612-379-2300. Hey, Rosie here for Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than my good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they have got you covered with 2 great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to LexusofWayzata.com or LexusofMaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today. Back with Rosen Sports Monday. Ron Henderson, a.k.a. the Fitness King, is with me today as my guest. And I know you just took a drink of water, and I think it's important to mention maybe that in itself, because staying hydrated beyond lifting weights and doing the things you've already talked about, Ron, how important is your daily water intake? We hear about that all the time.
It's important, and I'm going to tell on myself. So when you're a trainer who's really fixated with caring for other people, sometimes it's easy for you to forget things that you need to do. So I actually got dehydrated and passed out one day, and I'm laughing about it. I was laughing about it then because I always have so much water, and I'm always talking about water. Man, you look at sports teams, and I've trained a number of people from the Vikings as well before in the past. Anybody can get dehydrated if they don't drink enough water, so it's important just to keep that flow going. Water is the best medication, and I've had friends that have come to me, they're friends now, that were drinking, let's say, a pot and a half of coffee a day. And now the one guy, he's down to maybe 2 cups of coffee now in less than 8 months. It took him probably 3 months to get there, which is good. So he's drinking a lot of water, which fills you up, which is good, keeps you hydrated, and keeps everything flowing.
I want to get back to the food thing before we talk about stress, because I just thought of something, because we've had conversations before, and you've always said you got to treat yourself. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're not trying to impress upon people that certainly checking labels and eating correctly and watching your portion size is important. But it's not as if we can't have a slice of pizza or a donut at some point, that we all need to treat ourselves at the same time.
Exactly. And some people would get mad at me when I would say this. I've had times when I'm just driving something that says White Castle.
I love it.
Yeah. See, because you got to be honest with yourself. And I've met so many people that will say, no, I don't do this. Then I'll walk into the room and I'll see something that they got. I thought you didn't do that. It's all right. If you want to do something, the main thing is it's really, what are you doing consistently to benefit your health? It's all about consistency. You don't want to be eating that kind of stuff all the time. It should be something that you just decide that you're going to do for yourself. It's going to be a treat or whatever.
The last X number of months that I've been around you, you've really been pushing, and I think an agenda that you feel so important, and you call it catch and release. And I think in everybody's daily lives, no matter if you're a young man, young woman, or an older person dealing with anything in our society today, there's a lot of stress out there for folks. What do you mean by catch and release?
Okay, well, to explain catch and release, I'd have to tell you actually where that started. Catch and release started from the standpoint that there's so many things that trigger people. Mm-hmm. I used to get upset if you're driving crazy or something. I don't like crazy drivers, but
road rage.
But I used to get so stressed out when people would cutting in and out of traffic. They're telling me all these kind of things, and then I would
flipping you off.
Exactly. Then I'd look in the paper and I'd see all these road rage incidents of people that would pull out a gun or something, or they're downtown, they're having an argument outside of one of the clubs. Somebody says something to them, they get triggered, they're offended, and they pull out a gun or a knife and they shoot somebody. So those are stress triggers, and they affect everybody differently. I like to say it this way, what I call the vicissitudes of life. Different things are coming at people, and your ability to be able to handle that stress is going to be dependent on certain things that you know. So what happens, this is what I do. In the old days, if something would have bothered me, there's a little trigger that goes off in my head. Okay, well, I don't like what you just said to me. The trigger quickly, because that trigger comes off in my head, I quickly value that. And I go, okay, you just said this, or you cursed me out for no reason. Is there any value in that? And there's never any value in me getting upset about it. So I immediately let it go. So you let it go by you recognize that there's no value in it. And the catch and release is like when you think of catching a fish. Okay, you release that fish that you don't want. So what happens to me is I don't have any bad days at all because I don't allow things to stress me out. Because I look at those triggers, as soon as it pops up in my head, I recognize it and I'm like, nope, no value in that. I catch it and release it. So it's pretty simple, but you have to get in the habit of doing this. So I tell people, make a whole list. Everything that tees you off, everything that upsets you. Now you're able to see that. And so all of a sudden when that person says something that you don't like, in your mind, you know you could go kind of crazy on that person, but you say, what's the value in that? So when I'm teaching stress elimination, which I call stress detox, it's to change people's lives because now with Trump with different things, what's going on, presidency, tariffs and things, people are getting really stressed out about things that they can't change. Why would you get stressed out about something that you can't change?
Mm-hmm.
You get stressed out about those things because we grow up a certain way, so we behave a certain way. So I'm trying to tell people, start flipping the script on how you typically think so that you're no longer getting stressed out by these things.
Well, I would think that would help in with your daily marital life or whatever the case may be with a partner or close friendships, and also enable you to sleep better, because people lose a lot of quality sleep worrying about things. We've all done it. I've done it. Late at night, you find yourself stirring, going, and you start thinking about this, and we can't afford. None of us can afford to lose that kind of sleep.
Right, I agree. But again, Mark. So when you were talking about sleeping, so I saw my urologist because I was diagnosed with prostate cancer about 6.5, 7 years ago.
Remember that?
I'm cancer free, so I had to go see the urologist last week, and everybody says, "Why aren't you worried about it?" I said, "What am I worried about?" You go to the doctor. Whatever he tells you, you say, okay, what's the next step? Worrying about it won't change anything. And I was fine, but I wasn't going to worry about it regardless.
But please, I think what you're saying, though, too, the important lesson here is, especially for men who are more reluctant than women to go to doctors. I know this because I talk to my doctors all the time, being at a certain age. You don't have to worry about it, but you better go to the doctor. And don't try to pretend like you're Superman and that you can overcome anything.
No. Don't. You want to go to the doctor, but what I'm trying to say is people have to understand. I say it this way: don't stress what you can't affect. If you can't affect something, why are you stressing over it? It's actually that simple, but you have to get in the habit of doing the things that I'm talking about. If you can affect it, affect it. If you can't affect it, don't stress about it. So that's where my life is, which is why, I'm working on that book too right now.
Right. Well, tell us about that, because I know you're working on you've written a number of books, and you've made a number of public appearances, speeches. You talk to different groups, and you can hear in the tone of your voice that you're as committed today as you've ever been to what you really, the core beliefs that you do have. So if you could talk about, those situations. I mean, as far as speaking to groups and eliminating that stress from your life.
Oh, yeah. So the book you're talking about, that hopefully should be out in the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
It's a 7-day stress detox challenge. And in that book, it's all laid out there for people to help them, because I want people to be stress-free, because I don't care what position in life you're in. I talk with people that are bank presidents and owners of these big companies, and they're all stressed out. Why are they stressed out? Because they haven't figured out how to eliminate that stress out of their life. Most people teach stress management. Mm-hmm. I teach people how to actually eliminate stress. So that's why when I run into somebody, I'll say, "Good morning, how are you?" And they go, "I'm all right. How are you doing?" I go, "Great." I say, "Siempre bueno." And they look at me, they don't believe it. Every day is a great day for me, but it's only because I practice the things that I teach people. I have no bad days, and I am blessed to be able to say that.
I think people are just genuinely suspicious of someone. They are. They go, wait, what's with this guy? He's smiling at me. He's saying hello. He really does care if I'm having a good day or not, and that carries over to the service industry.
Right.
I know you've always made a point of saying, you want to get to know, and I'm guilty of it myself. If we have a wait person taking care of us or whomever it is, it doesn't hurt to ask that person's name. Right. Ask how their day's going or whatever the case may be, because they're there to do a job and they're there to help you. But in turn, it's like if you show some care, and they're not just someone just there to serve you food. Oh yeah, it can make a new relationship.
I agree. And anything, it's always about, how can I say it, giving value. So when people look at me and I can tell, that they give me that look when I say always good. Yeah, I say, but if you had a couple of minutes, I could tell you when things weren't always good.
Right.
When I allowed those things to pull me from side to side, and I would go to the doctor to have the yearly physical. As soon as I saw the needle, I started sweating. Okay. I don't care how big and strong you are. I started sweating. Right. So the last time we went, but anyways, so last time that I went to the dentist, I knew they had to do a lot of work, and I hate needles. And so when they were giving me this big shot, I got done. I said, "You notice it didn't bother me this time?" And my dentist said, "I kind of noticed that." I said, "Do you know why?" I said, "I was thinking of a line from Training Days when Denzel Washington said, 'King Kong ain't got nothing on me.'" But it was because I was using the stress elimination things. I didn't allow that to affect me. So now I don't sweat when I'm getting a shot. I'm so used to getting shots, but it's because of the stuff that I teach people. It actually does work. What causes that stress in you, that anxiety in you? How can you improve that? That's what I want to help people with, Mark.
This has never been more important, I think, today than ever before. And you've had a very, very interesting life. We've had many a conversation about you were a bodyguard.
Oh, yeah.
You've been around some great boxers. You've been around entertainers. You've worked downtown, and bouncers. But you've always done it with kind of like this peaceful, almost like Bruce Lee-ish sort of way of approaching things. Yeah. But don't get near me if you want trouble. But at the same time, because I know your hands are pretty quick still, even at your age.
Yeah, that's true.
But you've had some interesting experiences, right? Even working as
and I have. But see,
I hate to use that word bouncer, but
bouncer, security. But that's even true too. So I'm going to go back to the fact that there's so much violence even in our community, Mark. And it's because of how they don't know how to handle the stuff that's going on in their life. People say, well, you don't understand what they've been through. You don't understand what I've been through. People don't understand what I've been through, Mark. Okay, they don't understand my childhood, abuse, and all this stuff. I'm not going to get into it.
Sure.
But I've had abuse stuff against me as a child. People don't even they don't even know about it. So you can't say that. The only thing I know is when you figure it out, you're much better if you can just let those things go, forgive the people that hurt you, start to eliminate the stress. And one thing that stresses people out is they hold on to that baggage.
Yeah.
Got to let that past go. I don't care how much it hurt you. Release it. You're freeing yourself when you release it.
You've also spent time recently. I know you invited me over to one of the little dinner things you got together at St. Louis Park, my hometown, St. Louis Park Police. You've worked with law enforcement.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
Well, I'm on the advisory board for the St. Louis Park Police Department, which I like doing because we're able to give good feedback. I was able to be part of the group that actually selected the new chief for St. Louis Park. That was great. Mm-hmm. I also do CIT on the side with this called Crisis Intervention Training. And that's to teach people how to, and all the departments now have to go through this. They have to learn how to de-escalate situations. But I do it. You know why I do it? Because I'm trying to get them to say, look, this is really great because they love crisis intervention. But what I say is, you want to be better at that? Learn to de-escalate yourself first. Then you're going to go in that situation without baggage. Because what happens is, if you just got in an argument with a coworker or your spouse, and now you're going in to de-escalate somebody, you're bringing what I call after effects, bad after effects into that. But if you don't have those bad after effects because you don't allow yourself, Mark, to get stressed out, now you're going in there with 100% where you can focus on that person and be what I call brain-driven, not anger-driven.
And are they very accepting of your...
Oh, they love it. They love it. They're like, when are you going to put this together? I said, well, I'm working on getting this book out there to help people with that. So I just go ahead and I share what I know. And one thing I know, if you get yourself in the best position possible, self-stage yourself, in other words, keep working on improving yourself, you're going to be much better at whatever you're doing. Whatever job you're doing, you're going to be better. But you have to learn how to eliminate stress out of your life because everybody has it. It's a matter of, are you going to eliminate it or are you going to just sit around and say, okay, now let me breathe in and out. Let me breathe in and out. Well, all you're doing is you're doing things after the fact. What I want you to do is recognize that stress trigger immediately, Mark. Deal with it on the spot. Then your life's going to be better. Mm-hmm. Your day's going to be better. And I'm going to submit to you right now. If anybody does that, it will work.
I love it. It's great advice, Ron. And I think of you more than anyone I know is that the words that come to my mind are simple pleasures. I mean, we talk about recipes you have and cooking and making dinner with your wife and just, enjoying a good show and everything that you do. But it seems like there isn't a day that goes by where you're not working on something. You have a project or something that's going on.
That's true.
That's your idle time is not what I associate with Ron Henderson.
No, it isn't, but with that, working on my online course, working on my YouTube channel, with all
languages,
languages. But with all that said and done, guess what the thing is I enjoy the most? Connecting with people, man. I
know you do.
I love people. It's great meeting people. I just love it.
Yeah.
It gives me energy. That's my stay vacation.
Yeah, it is. And I find that to be true. And I can't tell you how many times, and it's a lesson that, again, we learn from our friends. And And I think I'm having tomorrow. I'm having lunch with a good friend of mine who's going through some tough times right now. And I think that all that has been helpful from learning so much more from you than others than just lifting weights and being the best version of myself as I get older and enjoying my time with my wife right now and all those sorts of things. But I think that's the lesson for a lot of us is just eliminating stress and taking the simple pleasures that we can out of our own lives.
Right. I agree, Mark. And I do believe that it's actually easier than what people think, because the people that I've had bank presidents and I've had different people, big companies, start putting into practice the catch and release techniques. And it's made a difference. My one friend, he's waiting for a kidney replacement. He's did the forward for this book. And it's beautiful about how he was no longer stressed out about all this stuff. And he's been on dialysis for like 4 years. That's a great testament that this stuff actually works, Mark.
So if people want to get a hold of you, my friend, how can they do so?
I would say just email me at ron@stressresilienceexpert.com, or you can probably put something up there that they can.
Yeah, say that one more time. Ron
at stressresilienceexpert.com.
All right. Well, I hope I haven't stressed you out too many times.
No, never.
Well, I cherish our friendship more than anything. And,
likewise.
So it's been fun. I hope people really enjoy listening and take the heed in listening to what you have to say and the great advice about taking care of yourself and being the best version that you can be. Ron Henderson, thank you so much for being on Rosen Sports Monday today.
And thank you for having me, Mark. It's been a pleasure.